The sun had long since slid behind the Chenango hills, and the yellow light from the houses along Fraternity Row glistened forth in the darkness. Shouts were heard upon the hill as students poured forth from the dormitories. Cheers and a rumble of drums vibrated through the valley, while students formed a snake dance down the willow path to Broad Street. Band music and cheers battles in the electric air as the fraternity men mingled with the parade. Soon the rabid procession reached the village square, and another Colgate pep rally was underway.
With the nation on the verge of World War, Colgate students' priorities remained the next big game against rivals such as Syracuse and Cornell, the festivities of various parties, and occasional classroom studies. On December 7, 1941, the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor and the United States entered World War II. For Colgate students, the war had long seemed likely, but the surprise attack brought forth a reality for which no one had been entirely prepared. However, rather than getting caught up in a wartime frenzy, Colgate students were able to continue their upbeat way of life.
President of the Alumni Corporation, George W. Cobb, urged students to remain in school, focus on their studies, and attempt to carry on as normally as possible. An editorial published in the December 9, 1941 issue of the Maroon called for similar action, reminding students that another and more important reason for not getting panicky and insanely rushing off to enlist is that finishing out the semester or academic year will enable drafted students to return to college after the war without having to repeat an entire year's work.
In the months that followed, the majority of students on campus heeded Cobb's advice and maintained their pre-war priorities. While it is clear from all student publications, ranging from the serious to the humorous, that the threat posed by the war was on the minds of students, it did not stop them from enjoying their college years and maintaining a sense of normalcy. Hitler's armies continued their march across Europe, leaving death and destruction in their wake. Back in Hamilton, the men of Colgate were more concerned with the upcoming spring weekend, which, due to changes in scheduling, was now the only party weekend of the year. The 1941 banter joked that Colgate students unanimously give house parties the nod as the most valuable part of a college education. These men were not willing to allow anything to disrupt their good time.
Eventually, the war forced the school to consider practical concerns over traditions, leading the administration to implement a 3-year program based on a trimester system in order to allow more men to graduate and enlist. Rather than hosting parties and entertaining women, the fraternity houses were used for Navy quarters, an auxiliary infirmary, and housing for the mere 77 civilian students that remained on campus by July of 1944. By that time, life at Colgate was dictated almost entirely by the Navy presence on campus, rather than the frivolous fun that had defined the Colgate experience for earlier generations.
The graduating class of 1942 knew that they were the final year to enjoy the fun-loving Colgate that their predecessors had created. They went off to war able to hold on to lasting memories of good times with great friends.
Entering in a time of carefree peace and departing into a world splashed with turmoil, the class of 1942 will leave the Colgate campus with abundant friendly memories stored within its soul.